Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We love having you here, and it's our mission to bring you all the latest and greatest tips, skills, and know-how to make you the best that you can be. We know that you have it in you, and we're going to show you how. Now, let's get started.
Now, looking for a disruptive mindset conversations that is literally going to blow your mind. Now, transforming your mindset from where you had to where we need to be. Now, we're talking about disruptive mindset conversations. And this is where it begins. Like, well, from Omobola Stephen. I'm your host, Omobola Stephen. Welcome to the show. On today's show, I have Ken Stearns, who's a writer, podcast creator, host, and a change expert. Now, Ken Stearns, you focus on overcoming life and finding our way as human. Welcome to the show with me, Ken Stearns.
Omobola, thank you so much for having me on the show. I love it.
Thank you so much for joining me. I would like us to talk about much more about personal development and self-improvement. Now we have your topics, focusing on overcoming life and finding our way as humans, as I shared earlier. Now, I would like us to begin with the telltale signs that it's time for a person's next move. Can you share any personal experience to buttress this?
Yeah, well, I think this is a fun one, especially people in corporate. Sometimes you get out of school and you get in your first role, and your second role happens maybe kind of quick. And there becomes a time when you are in a role that, is kind of your subject matter expertise, right? You're in that, you're maybe 5 years in, or you might be a little bit longer in, but it's around that mark that you kind of settle into a space, usually I say a lot of people. And then you become more of a subject matter expert, and you become a little bit, now your path becomes more narrow. Now the money might get better because you become more of an expert. You become good at this particular task. And if it's valuable to the organization, then they want to keep you. So they'll keep you happy with the trappings of that role because they need that role done. And now you're not just narrowing your career from a career standpoint, but you're now also niching yourself into that one particular company and that system. And you could become an expert, and you could become a popular person. If you're doing something interesting, you become trapped in a way. And it doesn't look like a trap. It doesn't smell like a trap. It feels good. It feels like adulation. It feels like you're doing a good job. You get high reviews. You get good checks. You get decent bonus. But in the end, you are narrowing your options. And so, and then when that change comes, that is extremely painful change you don't control. So, this is change. It's an outcome change because it's an external force. Something happens and the change comes, and it's not planned. And the problem is now you are a very freakish person. You're good at this software on this job, on this company with this process. And it's just a small example, but there's so many roles where you can end up in a very narrow space, in a small box. So I would implore people to not, when you feel the walls closing in on your career, what are your options? Unless that's a very specific niche you love and you're going to get extremely well paid, and that's a long career that you can see uninterrupted, then I would be careful, because you do get pigeonholed. And so I would argue, don't wait for change to happen to you. Constantly be making those changes in your own expertise, your own experience. Pick up another role, ask to change departments, move around. You're young. If you're under 40, you're young, and you should be moving around and changing roles. Don't let change happen to you. Make change happen. Be in control of your change.
All right. Now, we're still talking about the corporate world. Leaving the corporate world, is it meant for everybody? Now, I've had a few folks who left the corporate world and realized that it didn't really solve their problems.
Yeah.
Problem?
Yeah. I mean, corporate world may or may not be a source. I don't know if it's a source of your problems in life. It may give you problems in life. I don't think corporate world is, corporate world being, it's a pretty broad definition. And I don't know that there's people who are made or not made for it. I think it's the people you interact with and the role you have, the passions you've got. If your passions are being met, if your inner kind of self-creativity and your ideas, if you're able to do those or execute your expertise at a high level, I don't know whether it matters whether you're in corporate or not. You can find a lot of satisfaction in corporate. I was very well, and I was good at, but I was also very good at that. I don't know if there are people made or not made in the end. I think people fantasize, they will put themselves in the place that I'm not for corporate because, but I do think there are spaces in corporate for most people, especially the different kinds of roles that we can do. And with remote work, and hybrid coming in and out of the office, I think more and more people can kind of fit into that. But corporate is probably not the source of your problems in life. If you're running away from a job because it's your problem, you may find you run into the mirror.
All right, that's the Ken. Now let's talk about overcoming life, right? So, and also finding our way as human in these challenging times that we have. And I know that you agree with me on this. How do we find our way as human? Now, I like to buttress my point with the words of Jim Brown, who said, if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you will fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they've planned for you? So can we get talking, Ken?
I love that. I've never heard that before. Well, I'm a big fan of planning. I have one of my rules. I have a book. My second book I'm working on now is called Ken's. I don't have a title yet, so I'm calling it Ken's Rules. I don't think that's a great title, but I'm calling it that for now. And one of my rules is horizon thinking. And it's basically, visionary stuff where you're looking and planning beyond where you can see over the horizon. So I call it horizon thinking. And the idea there is to think and to plan past where you can see. So it requires imagination. And you can only plot that course from where you stand. So you have to, where you are today, the skills you have, the person you are, the human you are, the relationships you are, and where do I want to be where I can't see? What does that look like? So for me, it was a lot of times, ultimately in this role, doing this job, getting out of corporate, I was asking myself that question, when I'm 80, when I'm 70, what do I want? What's my life like? I can't see it. So I have to imagine it's over the horizon, right? I can't imagine 70. I can't see it, I should say, but I can imagine it. And I imagined, what I saw, I didn't like, retiring from corporate at 65 or 67, what I was going to look like, what am I going to do? What are my options at that age? What am I going to feel like? And so I started to imagining, that conversation and that exercise caused a disruption in my own direction. And, asking the universe, right? Asking God, you're asking God this question. When you keep putting this in the universe over that horizon, you're asking that question, the universe is going to answer you, right? This is the way the universe works. It's a zero-sum game. It's 100% balanced. Everything ends 1 plus, it's 1 minus, it's 1 minus 1, 0. It's totally, the universe is in such balance that even our thoughts can disrupt it and force it to align. I really believe this. And so this horizon thinking technique, imagining what you want to be doing when you're 70, what does that look like? That will come in some way, shape, or form, will actually happen because you'll start to do intentional things to get you there in the final outcome. So I'm a big fan of planning, and I think the goals the tactics to get to where you want to go, those little things you do to achieve the goals are important to recognize. You don't want to lose sight of the day-to-day stuff. But also the big thinking is one of my favorite techniques.
All right. Now, also talking about finding a way as human. Excuse me, Ken, are we just going to find our way in life? Don't you think that we need to find our way to the right source? Now, I'd like us to talk about spiritual direction and also the moral life.
I'm sorry, say that question again. I kind of missed the question.
Yes. Now talking about finding our way in life, right? Do you think we need to find our way to the right, or don't you think we need to begin to find our way right now to the source? Now we talk about the spiritual direction and also the moral life.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey for me. I was raised Catholic. I was an altar boy. And ultimately, I don't go to church. I didn't go to church for a very long time. But I was spiritual, and I became more spiritual, less about man's religion, less about man's rules, and much more focused on God's law, if you will. The law of right and wrong, just generally, like the very easy one to follow. I didn't want to get too complicated. And so I wrote my book. My book is called Dear God. So I wrote this book called Dear God. And in it, the topics I cover are kind of interesting because they're more human. I wasn't asking, they're letters to God. So I write these letters to God, and they're more, it's around your thinking about yesterday's, tomorrow's, today's. It's about acceptance, forgiveness, compassion, which we talked a little bit about earlier. And then I get into love, karma, service, which really, you get into those three, you start to really line up with God. And the last one is the book of you, which is God, and that's faith, hope, and prayer. And those are so the way the book's organized, it's kind of your book of self, my yesterdays, my todays, my tomorrows. And then between you and I, Omobola, we're going to have acceptance, forgiveness, and compassion for each other. And when we get into the community, the humanity, it's really love, karma, and service are the tools you've got to bring to the table. And then what God opens up for people is that faith, hope, and the ability to pray, to talk to somebody, and to have that conversation. And so, yeah, I think even my own spirituality has changed quite a bit. And this journey, it's funny. I don't remember writing the questions. So I wrote 400 questions. I used the book to write 400 questions for my show. And I don't really remember a lot of the questions. 400 questions is a lot of typing and a lot of thinking to come up with 400 questions. It's blurry to me, very blurry. And I kind of laugh because I wrote this book called Dear God. I asked God, are my ideas correct? This is what I think. And, that guy's kind of sneaky. He's got a sense of humor. He sent me on this trip around the country to talk to people, to ask them the questions that I asked him. So I've got this kind of funny, it's a funny outcome, right? I think I got a sense of humor about it, at least.
Right. Thank you, Ken Stearns, for your insight on today's show. Ken, now you have this personal story, which was of risking all that you have saved and built to chase your own desires. And it worked for you. Now, in this scenario, it may not work for another person. Now, I have 3 questions and one for you. And now, do you think it's worth risking all? That's question number 1. And now, do you think that all dreams are to be pursued? And question 2, and the last question, do you think that a person should follow their dreams or to be realistic?
Okay, I got the first one. Is it worth it? And I missed the second one.
That's right. Is it worth risking all? Now,
Yeah.
Do you think that all the dreams need to be pursued? And the third one is, should the person follow their dreams or get to be realistic?
Well, you should follow your dream. You don't have to give it all up, though. I think there are I think you can take steps. You don't have to just jump off the end of the bridge. And if you do jump off the end of the bridge like me, it should be well planned. I was very well planned out, very intentional. I took a few years to do it. It was definitely not, it was evolutionary. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And I knew what I'm doing now may not be what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm in the discovery process. People were asking me, what's next? You're going to do this tour. Then what? I said, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't have a house. I got a van. I don't have a house. I don't have an apartment. All my belongings are in storage. I don't know what's next, but I'm okay with that because I've signed on for this journey of learning and development and I'd say hopefully maybe not self-improvement, but definitely changing myself. And so if people are listening and you want to risk it all, or you're thinking about it, I would encourage you 100% to do it. Don't die in the corporate job. Don't die a little bit every day if it's killing you. And if you have a plan, work the plan. Can you do it part-time? Can you ease out? How do you generate some revenue, or what's your plan to survive? So I think it's 100% worth it. If you have an opportunity to go out and do what you love and what you feel your calling is in life, or that it may lead to that place, then I think it's 100% worth the risk. I can go back to corporate tomorrow, Omobola. I can go back tomorrow if I have to, right? I mean, it would be painful. That would be extreme defeat. Like I would for sure have lost the game, but I would do it tomorrow if I could come back and it would help me do this for another 6 months, right? I would sacrifice that. So there's no, somebody asked me, one of the questions was, well, what if you fail? And I thought, I don't even know what that is. What is fail? I said, the only way I fail is if I stop. Like if I give up. And maybe that's failure, maybe that's not. But, wow, what a great question. But it so dumbfounded me because I had no idea what is failure? Hard for me to even define it.
Thank you once again, Ken. Would you like to share me any projects that you have in the pipeline?
Yeah, I'm working. So I'm currently, it's a great question, Omobola. Thank you for that one, because it's really interesting. The journey so far has led me to realize the level of mental health challenges in America. So many people are going through mental health. Let's say some people it's a crisis. Some people they're having a really difficult time. Now, it may not be a crisis, but could develop into one. But I was surprised at the number of guests that have overcome real challenges. And I'm putting together a foundation, a nonprofit, to help address some of those things around, mostly I think it's going to be around education and helping educate, giving people the tools like I had, giving people the tools to kind of have good self-talk and to lead themselves and their families in a positive way and avoid those slips and falls down in life down towards a mental health crisis. You're for sure going to struggle at times, but there are ways to help keep you out of becoming, clinical and becoming where you need to see a doctor, or take medication. So I think I want to work on that. And I'm working on my second book, The Ken's Rules, more of a corporate, more business focused than the Dear God book. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to finish my tour. I got about 6 months left. I got a great book I'm cooking on, and I got this project to build this nonprofit to help people out. And that's it. That's about it.
Awesome.
That's all I got.
We'll be on the lookout and wish you best of luck in the project. Ken?
So, sorry, say again?
I said we'll be on the lookout and I wish you best of luck in all the projects that you have.
Yeah.
All right. Ken, do you have any parting word you'd like to share with my audience?
I would just share some of the things that my guests share with me, and I think they've been like, it's a beautiful triad. for me right now. And it's a common theme. So it's kind of a common theme, and I like to steal it now. And the first one is that you're good enough, just like you are. Now self-improvement is a different angle on this. This is really just talking about your baseline self-worth, right? As a person, you're good enough like you are. You are a good person, and you're human. And it's finding what other value you can bring in life and how you can improve yourself from where you are. That's an endeavor that never ends for humans, right? We've got to constantly be improving. The other one is this too shall end. And I like to say a little twist on that, which is the good things will end and the bad times will end. Respect both and give them their space, and know it's part of the struggle either way. Even the upward struggle is a struggle. And the last one is you're not alone. Anybody going through any struggles, you're going through a work struggle, you're on that self-improvement roadmap and it's a struggle, you're not alone. There are so many people going through the same exact thing at this moment. And you're probably all in a dark tunnel walking next to each other. I would encourage you, just reach out your hands, try to find someone else's hand to hold on this journey. Omobola is here, a self-improvement person, I'm sure a great coach and someone to talk to and get guidance. Find those hands to hold on your journey through this life.
Thank you very much, Ken Stearns, for that motivation. Like to share your social media handles and your website.
Yeah, I think I've got a whole bunch of social media stuff, but the easiest place to find out a lot about me and what I'm doing and the JAR is at the JAR website, www.thejar.live. It's real simple, just thejar.live. And you go there and you got YouTube in there, LinkedIn, you got the web, the podcast, my book's there. You can follow the travel show, blah, 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 everything there.
Awesome. Thank you once again, Ken Stearns. We really had an incredible time listening to your insight on today's show, talking about overcoming life and finding our way as humans. Really been a wonderful time having you on the show. I wish you the best of luck once again in all the projects that you embark upon.
Omobola, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Now, if you'd like to catch up with any of these episodes of the show, you can do so on any podcast cross-promotion platforms or any podcast distribution platforms you bump into online. And do have a great time listening to the show. Perhaps you'd like to be a guest on Omobola Stephen, sharing disruptive mindset conversations on any topics or subjects on the personal development and self-improvement. Now, we're looking forward to have you guests on the show. We can be the change that the world is waiting for. Yeah. Now, I'll be looking forward to your mail. Till I come your way, I need you to be a good person. Bye for now.